Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie Gochner. This is Both Sides of the Aisle, and I have on the political right John Dougal.
Hey, great to be with you. Nice to have you back.
Thank you. And on the political left, Shireen Gorbani.
Hello, and hey, listeners. Thanks for sticking with us. Hope you're doing okay.
I heard you guys did a program without me unsupervised.
Yeah. That happens every once in a while.
Yeah. You know, I have fun, but it makes me nervous.
Oh, no. What's John going to do?
It's more like just moving through the topics and trying to kind of have that back and forth. But we talked about some big things and missed your opinion. I'm wondering if you want to share a little bit about your perspectives of...
You were in London, right?
Yeah.
So tell us what you heard there and tell us what you heard here.
You know, the thing that's interesting is London, of course, is a world city. It's very tied to the BBC. And I stayed.
Fake news.
I was there for a week. I was on vacation with my husband, but I didn't have any Fox News, any CNN. I was just BBC, and I think they're fit to be tied. They are very frustrated. Why are they frustrated? Because this really affects them.
BBC or they?
No, the Londoners.
Londoners.
Yeah, the UK.
Okay.
You know, they depend on this oil and natural gas. They didn't make the decision to be there. The news broke while I was there that President Trump has said, we've won the war. We don't need your Navy.
Mission accomplished, huh?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit of that. And but interesting for me.
Yet the price of fuel is up, so they're paying the price as a result, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The thing that's so interesting to me is a lot of thought leadership comes out of Europe. It really does. I mean, if you just think about The Economist magazine, the Financial Times, there's a lot that comes out of that part of the world, and they think the world just changed. I think they think that this has been a hinge point, an inflection point, that the re-entry into a massive campaign in the Middle East resets things in a way that's really hard to go back. So that stands out for me.
So meaning the U.S. is going its way and not the strong partnerships in the past or something else?
Yeah, meaning that, you know, NATO's at risk, the world order's at risk, the trust that they've always had with the United States of America has been so eroded that they're realizing they have to do trade deals on their own. And just a lot of the way the world works just changed.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a fair assessment. I'm wondering, you know, just given your... So my understanding is that when we're thinking about the impact of oil, a large majority of the oil was going to Asia, which creates domino effects across the board in terms of implications there. Who benefits in terms of production and selling is certainly Russia, which is not good for, you know, in many Europeans' eyes. Just from a financial, economic perspective, what were some of the things that you were noticing as in terms of what people were talking about or what you're concerned about? Yeah,
well, I mean, this is, you have to ask yourself, how much did the administration play out this scenario? It obviously would cause supply disruptions. There's just no question that they had to have thought through that. But I think it's fair to say that the disruptions have been larger than were contemplated. I mean, it's 20% of the world's oil and mostly natural gas supply. That's a huge supply shock. And there's an asymmetry, right? There's dominance on the U.S. side, but it doesn't take dominance to disrupt supply and demand patterns. It just takes a lack of confidence to push a ship through a strait.
Yeah.
Even if they're not going to get hurt, but they don't take the risk.
Right. I think there's a parallel there that I keep coming back to, which is around, and maybe it's tied to the comment you were making earlier, but just that we cannot claim to be moral leaders anymore. We cannot claim to be, I just think that we've really lost our standing, right, in the world. And I think that we will unfortunately suffer consequences for this down the line. And, you know, will that be attacks on Americans in Europe, which is closer? Will that be attacks on Americans here around the world? I just think that kind of retribution is what is at stake here.
I do think there's still a chance that this works out. So I'm still in that camp. Part of what influenced me there, the Hoover Institution, someone I follow, an institute I follow, Condi Rice leads it. And there's a wonderful podcast out where she talks about her opinions about this. It was just hit, you know, within the last week. But I encourage our listeners to go listen to it. She obviously, I think it was reported in the news that she met with the president and has given advice, you know, in the last 2 weeks about this. So I encourage people to listen to that because she basically, I mean, I'm not saying.
Which podcast was this?
It's the Hoover. I think it's called Goodfellows. Okay. But it's a great discussion with H.R. McMaster, with Condi, and some other leaders on it. But she makes the point that if you're Putin right now, you've lost your friend in Venezuela. He's in a prison in this country. You've lost, Syria, because it used to be on your side, and now the leader's, in hiding. You've got Iran, your good friend, that has, obviously just had their military destroyed. And she makes the case that it was about time that we take control of some of these things. So
I think that feels very in keeping with the politics that she comes from. And I would say those are the politics that got us into forever wars.
yeah. So what are we at, week 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, third weekend.
And I think there'll be another, for sure, couple of weeks of this. When does it become a forever war? Is it at 8 weeks? Is it at 10? One other interesting point.
You more see it in hindsight, I think.
Yeah.
We've all thought to ourselves, can't the U.S. military just say, okay, we're done. We've done our damage. The war's over. But I really appreciate this point that we don't get to decide that.
No.
Because as long as Iran keeps causing trouble, the war keeps going.
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't stand on the sidelines while they do something.
Yeah.
Well, and if you hear the sirens and you see the bombs landing in Israel, from their perspective, it's not over. The threat has not been eliminated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One other. So the Fed's meeting this week. What do? This is the Federal Reserve, our national bank. What do? They've got the double bind of inflation on the rise and unemployment on the rise, and a shock to the system like this. Of course, they'll hold. They won't decrease rates, but wow, this is becoming a much more of an economic issue than a geopolitical.
Well, and you two know how much I hate the Jones Act, but it highlights the stupidity of things like this, that we're supposed to keep America safe. And now we're talking about doing a waiver of the Jones Act for, so
Remind our listeners.
non-U.S. So the Jones Act basically requires that if you're going between 2 U.S. ports, it has to basically be a U.S.-built, U.S.-flagged, U.S.-manned ship, essentially. And so this is why, ships coming from Asia can't stop at Hawaii and then come to Long Beach. They come to California or the West Coast and then go ship back to Hawaii, because you can't have those international ships stopping along the way. And so this gets into the perverse issues that I hate. The East Coast, where does it get a bunch of its oil? Libya and Nigeria. Where does California get it? Not from Texas, from like Iran and places like this. And it's like you would think that the Texas or the Gulf Coast states would be shipping to other ports, California, the East Coast, wherever in the U.S., and we'd be very energy independent, and yet we are not. And this war in Iran and these type of issues highlight, from my perspective, the stupidity of the Jones Act. It is not pushing us to build ships here.
Yeah.
It is off pushing them elsewhere to be built.
I'll ask this again in a week or so. Where do you predict this goes, Shireen?
I think this keeps going. I don't think Iran's interested at all in backing down.
John?
I think it keeps going. I mean, what do they have to lose? I mean, they just, this is the type of thing. It's, it's been 47 years, and what's another 47 years?
I'm going to predict, so I'm going to be different, that this president's unpredictable and that he's going to figure out a way to declare victory and move on to something else. And it'll still be raw and sore here, but we will see a change of direction.
Yeah, I guess I would say that may happen.
Within
but
3 weeks, that's what I'm going to say.
just like we've been told that the conflict between Israel and Palestine is over and continues to rage.
There you go.
I think that's like what he says. Probably, I actually agree with you. He'll probably say that. But what will actually happen on the ground is we will continue to see war.
Well, and the more the bombs drop in Israel, the more they will attack. I mean,
Okay,
they'll
and
be
the
going back
long
and forth.
tail will be very
long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's go to the Save America Act. Now, Shireen has already reached out to let her congressperson know that she doesn't like this.
Yeah, well, actually, I called with a question.
Okay.
So Senator Mike
Do you
Lee,
know what it is?
Yes, is one of the key sponsors of the Save America Act, which is there's no other way to describe it than to say this is a mass effort to disenfranchise voters in this country. And so I called and I said, hey, I just want to know what percentage of Utahns have a passport. Neither Curtis's office nor Lee's office have a number on that. I said, what percentage of Utahns have easy access to their birth certificate? They didn't know. There is a cost associated with getting these items. So I said, functionally, what this is, help me understand how requiring people to have their birth certificate or their passport is not a poll tax. Is not fundamentally a poll tax to keep voters away from being able to vote in this country. And they did not have an answer for me. And I just encourage you to call your senators if you are in this state and ask them.
And you were talking to them. You were talking to their staffers.
I talked to their staffers. I said,
Okay.
but you're telling me you're one of the key sponsors of this piece of you're the person you work for is a key sponsor of this piece of legislation, and you have no idea how many Utahns have a passport? Or even when I said, do you know how much it costs? One knew, the other one had no idea. It's about $135 to go get a passport, right? So when we're talking about
plus more for the passport card.
I was like, hey, you know what? If you're willing to make passports free, if you're willing to make this easy to go get your birth certificate, I'd be interested to talk about that. But this is a disenfranchisement effort. This is a poll tax.
Yeah, John,
and I don't think it's about disenfranchising. There may be some effects of that, but I don't think that's the purpose. But I'm concerned that this is the federalization to a greater extent of elections that have been run at the state and county and municipal level, local level over the years, and centralizing it more and more, I do not think makes the election safe. I think it makes it riskier. I think the decentralization of our elections has provided greater security over the generations. Mm-hmm. And so that is my concern.
Is it not proof of citizenship to be registered but not to vote? I'm just making that distinction.
So I'm not sure I understand your
Well, I'm just
comment.
trying to think how this affects us in Utah with our mail-in, mail-out. And as I understand the SAVE Act, it's about you getting on the voter rolls. You have to show it. But once you're on, you don't have to have a passport or whatever to place your vote.
Well, what they'll do is clean the voter file, right? So they will go through and I mean,
I'm just making a little distinction that I'm trying to think that, if you get on the voter roll, take your civic responsibility of citizenship to show you're legit, then you're okay.
I think to Shereen's point, then there's certain other requirements to show other documentation when you vote. And I think it's very important that we have elections where only citizens are voting.
Which is what in Utah we largely have.
We've shown that rarely does somebody that's a non-citizen sign up. And my understanding is they essentially never vote.
Right.
Would we have one case or something like that?
We had one case and that individual had never voted in our state.
So a solution looking for a problem.
Yeah.
So Senator Thune. John Thune is an interesting one here. He is refusing to change the voting rules so that they can get this through the Senate. The SAFE Act is already passed in the House, if I remember right.
And all of your representatives voted for it.
So you're liking this Thune guy.
Yeah, I'm interested. I mean, this is kind of one of those fundamental questions around the filibuster. I do understand that if we get rid of it, it's gone for everyone, right?
And over the years,
Yep.
Democrats have complained they've wanted to get rid of it, and Kristen Sinema and
Manchin,
Joe Manchin blocked it because they recognize, sometimes we're in the majority, sometimes we're in the minority, and it benefits us when we're in the minority. Mm-hmm. And so don't take advantage when you're in the majority because it's going to bite us in the behind.
My guess here is John Thune maybe sees the writing on the wall. I think the most recent polls suggest that Democrats are poised to take the Senate. And actually, our Senator Mike Lee said we need to pass the Save America Act so we can reverse that trend. So understand he also believes that it is a way that you are going to disenfranchise voters.
Let's take a short break.
I'm just going to say, they're talking about doing a voice, filibuster, where you talk it to death. But there's certain benefits, Mr. Smith goes to Washington, that I kind of would like to see that. But then there's also the fact that will come with all sorts of little mini amendments along the way that will weaken and alter and probably put in place other things that I will likely detest.
Let's take a short break, and then we'll have some great local news to talk about. Natalie Gochner, Shereen Gorbani, and John Dougal. Stay tuned. You're listening to Both Sides of the Aisle on UPR. We love to hear from listeners like you. If you would like to send us a comment, email bsotapodcast@gmail.com. That's bsotapodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Shereen Gorbani on the left.
John Dougal on the right.
Natalie Gochner in the Political Center. This is Both Sides of the Aisle, and we get to talk now about an ICE warehouse in Salt Lake City. This is 6020 West, 300 South, $145 million property, according to the deed. This is ICE.
This is immigration related.
Purchasing a detention facility in our state. At least the place they're going to develop is that.
Yes, and I am proud to say that both our city mayor and county mayor, so mayors Mendenhall and Wilson, have come out to say that they will do what they can, use every tool at their disposal to not allow what is effectively an internment camp, a concentration camp, to be opened in our city. And I will say I am absolutely outraged and disgusted that our governor seems to think this is necessary and good.
He's been public about it, you're saying?
Yeah, he has.
They say that there's 10,000 jobs associated with this. I'm just kind of scratching my head. It's either a very, very large facility or they're going to do a lot of construction, because 10,000 jobs is a lot of people.
So it's not 10,000 jobs ongoing. It's a burst of 10,000 jobs to get it prepared and built and whatever it might be, and then that's
okay. So
just a handful. Is that what you're saying? You're
I'm just
going to
saying
have
the construction
whatever.
impacts could be big, but 10,000. Well, I mean, it must be a pretty big facility.
It's a large facility. Yeah. And I'll just say, this is the time to, if you are listening across the state and you do not believe that this is a good reflection of the values that we hold dear in the state. And this is something that I just fundamentally believe. I think it's been a while since I talked about this, but I ran for Congress in 2018. So I was out knocking on doors at a time when we had really similar, I think, feelings and tensions around what the Trump administration was doing around immigration. It has only gotten worse. And one of the things that brought me a lot of peace and a lot of hope was knocking on doors all across Davis County, talked to a lot of Republicans. And I remember older Republican men standing on their doorsteps in tears about what they were seeing in terms of how this country was treating immigrants. I cannot believe that sentiment doesn't still exist. And I would encourage people to reach out to their representatives at the state level and at the governor's office and let them know how you feel about this.
Interesting.
Shireen, I would say a significant element of that sentiment still exists in Utah.
People don't like to see what's happening.
Yes,
I'm with you.
Now, I will disagree a little bit with Shireen on this facility. There are aspects of this, I mean, dangerous criminals and certain other immigrants that I think should be deported. And you need to have a facility to store them, house them, if you will, as you work through that process. But I've seen where this will likely get abused and overused, for detentions that I would disagree with.
Yeah.
I mean, the immigrant that has overstayed their visa, they're just looking to build a better life and live the American dream, I do not think should be housed in a facility like this. They should be allowed to continue their life. I don't think they should be, drawing on welfare services or other things like that. But if they're wanting to build a better life and work and provide for their family, hey, God bless America. I welcome them to be part of the American dream.
One comment I would just make is our state, our city, our capital city is a warehousing and distribution center for the Mountain States, for the Mountain West. We have what Phoenix doesn't, what Boise doesn't. That is, we're in the dead center middle of the interior Western United States. So I can see why this is an irresistible location with our proximity, with our access. But we're used to warehousing goods, not people. That's the irony to me.
Well, and I come from the perspective where the federal government should do its job and stop pushing its job onto, state and local governments and private businesses. And so this is one of those things. In lieu of this, what would they be doing? Likely putting folks in prisons. And I think the federal government should house their prisoners.
I just also have to quickly say, you and I actually clearly agree that people who are violent, dangerous criminals should be removed from this country. The data that we're seeing on individuals that are being rounded up by ICE suggests that is not at all what is happening. Many of these individuals, the vast majority, do not have a criminal record. This is about Stephen Miller's absolute white supremacist dream of kicking immigrants out of this country. And I do believe that we should resist it with the full force that we're able to.
Well, and you and I can agree on Stephen Miller for very different reasons.
Yeah.
But he's not a limited government fiscal conservative from my perspective. He's driving a dangerous agenda.
Okay, so now we've got Carrie Ann Lisenby. This is the House Republican from Clearfield. I know Carrie Ann well. She's a really terrific person. She does a lot of great work in the legislature, but she's going to challenge Representative Blake Moore. This will be exciting, meaning two very
prominent. There's a lot of folks that are very excited about this. She's leadership in the House. And
I don't think she is. I believe she was not in leadership this last session.
Well, no, but she has been.
She has been in the past.
Yes.
Yeah, she's smart. She's articulate. She's, knows how to navigate politics. So this will be interesting. I think they're both friends to me. So I think so highly of Representative Blake Moore as well.
One of the things I did 2 years ago is I created a little tool on a website where folks could go figure out how to balance the budget. Mm-hmm. She's probably smarter than me because she just created a game that deals with trying to engage folks in the budget process. It's not as detailed as balancing the budget, but it will likely engage more delegates and voters than maybe my wonkish website.
Let's do two legislative issues. We had this little snafu with the Pioneer Trail and rural economic development. I thought this was interesting. This was a story by Robert Gerke in the Tribune. Basically, we had a legislator that didn't get what he wanted in rural Utah, but was surprised we were spending $10 million on the Pioneer Trail. Yeah. I'm a huge proponent of the Pioneer Trail, so I'm happy to respond to that if you guys want to ask me about that.
Tell me a little bit about the Pioneer Trail.
Well, think of these, very important tourist destinations in our capital city, the Temple and the Capitol. And the Pioneer Trail connects them up State Street and does it in an incredible way that is full of, lots of walkable and beautiful landscaping. But it really brings out the Utah Museum. That's the new north building on the Capitol complex. It connects visitors with our building that was the first place where a woman voted in the United States. Our Capitol grounds are incredibly lovely. And over time, I think it could actually extend into a loop that goes down through City Creek and Memory Grove. So this is of the ilk of the Highline Trail in New York, the Freedom Trail in Boston, and it has tentacles that stretch far past what I've just described. But I think we have to invest in this kind of thing for our capital city to really shine.
So I think we should invest in this kind of thing for cities generally anyway. I'm sorry that he didn't get what it was that he wanted. What did he want?
It was basically a economic development appropriation for rural Utah that's post-performance, economic development. So financing that if the companies come and they do what they say, they get a kickback.
Yeah. Well, I guess I would just say that the kind of investment that you're talking about is what we see in world-class cities. Mm-hmm. And I think in some ways the presence of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints here, and certainly the reopening downtown of Temple Square, is going to be such a massive opportunity for us to, again, I think really show to the world what this community can do. Beautiful things, culturally rich things. And I think it's important to do that.
I think Representative Abbott is looking at this saying, okay, it's $10 million, but it's really just a down payment. He's saying that it's going to be upwards of $50 million for this trail. And he's probably also asking the question is, what is the state responsibility for this? Maybe it's a city thing, maybe it's a county thing, but why does the state need to pony up $10 million and likely, in his mind,
it is
upwards of $50 million?
It is a state road, and I would
road.
say if you open up the hood, you'll see that about half of this funding is going to come from the private sector. There's a lot of private support. Okay, another one. How about the Women's Leadership Project not getting their funding, seeing that pulled in the last day of the session and actually reallocated to something else at USU? This is some good work that's done up there.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. Considering that we continue to find ourselves at the bottom of the barrel for states to be a woman in this country. And I will just say, Susan Madsen does really incredible work. And if you're not familiar with it, maybe we can ask her to join us one time here to talk about the different dimensions by which the Women in Leadership Project has really worked on advancing women's participation in politics, in the economy, in education.
Mm-hmm. It's safe for me to say she's one of the most productive researchers I've ever met.
Yeah.
The volume and quality of what she puts out. And I
think she does it with a real deep sense. She is rooted. Is she from here? I'm not even sure, but she's really culturally rooted in the work that happens here. To see this happen to me is just, I think, an indication of sort of where the state sits in terms of our leadership, maybe, around what it means to really invest and understand what's going on with women.
Yeah, and I don't know the backstory behind this. I would say the session was one of those interesting things as you were trying to tighten the belt and cut funding here and fund other areas there,
Yeah. Hey, we're losing Troy Williams as the Executive Director of Equality Utah. Troy's someone I know and really value and respect. He took a different approach to LGBTQ advocacy, basically a mutual accommodation, let's work together approach. Yeah. I really honor his work.
Yeah, so after serving for over a decade, I think 11 and a half years in the position, I have to say I'm really proud of Troy for, I think that it's good to have change in organizations like this. And there is something really important about understanding sort of when you've put your time in, even though I think there's a real incentive to sort of stay. It's pretty incredible that somebody decides to pass the baton.
Yeah.
I think one of the key things with Troy is he recognized, okay, the Republicans aren't my enemy. Maybe they don't understand and support my issue yet, but I need to work with them to help them better understand
Kudos to him. That's something Utah does well.
Yeah.
Merrill Cook, I don't know, did you ever interact with him, Shireen? Is he before your time to know what a big deal
largely,
is? I had a lot of overlap with him in the sense that he ran for a lot of offices, he lost a lot, but he also was elected to Congress.
12, something like that,
Yeah, but he made a difference in this state. He was a warrior for tax cuts, and he passed away, so condolences to his family.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he was very passionate about the political process, about tax cuts. And so, yeah, he's one of those that even though he was losing, he was making progress and winning from his perspective.
Yeah. As a young analyst in the Capitol, he led a campaign of voters in the rotunda saying, no more taxes, no more taxes. And I don't ever remember the Capitol being that loud.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, great program. Thanks for the conversation, Shireen and John. Natalie Gochner in the Political Center. Program's produced by Anthony Skoma. Thanks, everybody, for listening.